All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, we knew that this day was going to come when the Milwaukee Brewers would once again lose a game, and it's finally here. And it's one of those where this historic win streak for the Brewers is now in the books. We saw Milwaukee reel off 14 straight wins. They have not, prior to today's loss to the Cincinnati Reds, they hadn't tasted defeat here in the month of August. Their last loss prior to today came on the 30th of July at the hands of the Chicago Cubs. And that's going to be important to touch on because as you hang on here. But nonetheless, Milwaukee was very close, okay, to making it 15 in a row until the Cincinnati Reds gave the Brewers a dose of their own medicine. Because Friday night we saw Milwaukee go down 8-1 against Cincinnati before they mounted that furious comeback and won that contest. And then, of course, their comeback towards the end of the game last night. Of course, they went on to win in extra innings. They came back today, okay, and it looked like they were going to win this game and make it 15 in a row until the Reds said, you know what, not so fast. They forced it to extra innings, and they won in walk-off fashion. But nonetheless, if you're the Brewers and if you're the Brewers fan base, granted you lost the game today, but I don't think you should be upset because now that the streak is finally over for the Brew Crew, look at where this team is now in comparison to where they were just a few weeks ago. I mean, we're talking about a Brewers team that they were looking up at the Chicago Cubs for first place in the National League Central at one point. They caught the Cubs, okay, and now they have put Chicago in the rearview mirror. And I talked about this recently a couple of weeks ago because you look at the way that Milwaukee played going into the All-Star break. You look at the way that Milwaukee has continued to play after the All-Star break, and of course now Milwaukee has themselves an 8-game lead in the Central over Chicago, albeit that lead was 9 going into play today. Prior to the Brewers losing to the Reds. But nonetheless, with 39 games left here in the regular season, the Brewers are in the catbird seat to not only win the NL Central for the 4th time in the last 5 years, but there's a possibility that maybe, just maybe, the road to the National League pennant will roll through Milwaukee. They currently have the best record in baseball right now. Okay. I've talked about this before and I'll say it again. This team right now is clicking on all cylinders. You're talking about arguably the best offense in the National League. You look at what they're getting from their pitching staff as well. And what can you say about the job that Pat Murphy has done for this club so far this season? But even with all of that said, if you're Milwaukee, you really can't take your foot off the throttle. Why? Because, yeah, you have yourself an 8-game lead over the Cubs in the division. But beginning tomorrow, you've got a 5-game set with the Cubs at Wrigley. And it starts with a day-night doubleheader tomorrow. And the last thing that if you're the Brewers, after all of the success that you've had, the last thing that you can afford to do is lose this series to the Cubs. Maybe it's something where Chicago, just hypothetically speaking, of course, but maybe it's something where Chicago takes 4 out of 5 from Milwaukee, or maybe Chicago sweeps Milwaukee for the 5-game set. Hypothetically, to say if that were to happen, you're now talking about the Brewers' lead just being at 3 games, and anything could happen, with more than a month to go in the season. So I think Milwaukee understands the importance of this series. I think the Cubs clearly understand the importance of this series because even though that the Brewers currently have an 8-game lead over Chicago for first place in this division, it's not like the Cubs have been playing bad. I mean, Chicago currently owns the top wild card spot in the National League. Chicago more than likely is going to be a postseason squad. Chicago, you're looking at them, they have themselves a darn good opportunity to go out there and win at least 90 games themselves. It's just the fact that the Brewers have been playing so much better. And the fact that the Brewers have been playing so much better, I talked about them, possibly winning the Central for the fourth time in the last 5 years. I talked about them possibly securing home field advantage and the road to the NL pennant going through Milwaukee. On top of that, with the pace that the Brewers are on right now, they could possibly win 100 games, which would be a first in franchise history. But nonetheless, this team has galvanized their fan base. I've talked about it recently as far as, them being a small market team, and it has not slowed them down from competing, losing guys in free agency, trading guys, you name it, and they keep the machinery going. And I think this team, for the most part, embodies that. So, like I said before, they're in a situation you clearly don't want to take your foot off of the throttle against a very good Cubs team. It was bound to happen, like I said, as far as the streak coming to an end. It did happen against a Reds team that, they're battling to try to get themselves a postseason spot as well. Symposium, what's going on, my man? Definitely appreciate the support. Listen, my man, I'll tell you like this, we're knocking on the door. We're right there. We're right there. And it's coming sooner rather than later. You know what? I might not have told you this before, but I'll tell you like this. I definitely appreciate your support along this journey, man. Definitely much love to you, man. Um, and with Milwaukee, it's one of those where you know what, they can't take their foot off of the throttle. And I think this, like I said, this is going to be a big series coming up against the Cubs. And even on top of that, Milwaukee's got to keep doing what they've been doing, and that is to take care of their business against the teams that they're supposed to beat. Right after the Cubs, they got 3 at home with the Giants. They got 4 at home with the Arizona Diamondbacks, 2 teams that are out of it and have basically thrown in the towel this year. But you look at coming down that last stretch of August and then heading into September. They've got Toronto for 3 games. Okay, Toronto's leading the AL East. They've got Philadelphia at home for 3 games. They're leading the NL East, and of course, that could be a potential playoff preview right there. And the Phillies have themselves a good team. They've still got dates with the Padres, and they finish up with the Reds towards the end of the season. But nonetheless, the Brewers just got to keep going out there and doing what they have been doing, which is taking care of their business. Like I said before, this is a fun team to watch. They don't beat themselves, which is good, and they play with discipline. And I think that is a credit to their manager Pat Murphy and the job that he has done. And sometimes you need something to help galvanize and help rally a team. Last year, for example, with the New York Mets, we saw the whole thing with OMG and Jose Iglesias and you name it, and the Mets got behind that. And maybe this year for the Brewers, it could be Pat's Pancakes. We don't know. But nonetheless, like I said before, it was going to happen. We know that. Their streak came to an end. It's in the books. It was a great streak. I mean, being perfect for more than 2 weeks in baseball is not easy to do. And Milwaukee did it. And, they showed a lot of character. They showed a lot of resolve. And, with this team, they showed that, what? You're gonna have to use all 27 outs if you want to try to go out there and beat us. And they lost today. They got a bad taste in their mouths, and hopefully, for their sake, they can get it out of their systems because again, they've got a big one starting tomorrow with the Cubbies at Wrigley. And I think the fact that it's a Monday, the series starts on Monday, and it's also a day-night doubleheader. Milwaukee knows that what they didn't, and they won't have an opportunity to sulk because it's back to business. But nonetheless, like I said before, it was bound to come to an end. It finally did. They built themselves a decent cushion in the NL Central, and if they could find a way to take at least 3 out of 5 this week against the Cubs at Wrigley, they will be well on their way to NL Central championship number 4 in the last 5 years. But nonetheless, let's see if the Brew Crew can keep on rolling with about a month and a half or so to go in the regular season. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Like I always say, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports. And if you give me that follow, I'll give you that follow right back. And the same can be said for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can check us out at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating groups going on social media. Symposium, as always, definitely appreciate you checking it out. Definitely appreciate the comments. Definitely appreciate the support. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.